So important to just be able to just take all this stuff in your head and just kind of be willing to say, yeah, it's just one tiny little perspective.
This is the How to Quit Working Show. Jeff Steinman believes entrepreneurship is the only true path to freedom. That's why he created the How to Quit Working Show, where you'll hear stories, insights, and inspiration from lifestyle fanatics who left their soul-sucking 9-to-5 job forever. Now, here's your host, author, entrepreneur, and ultimate lifestyle fanatic, Jeff Steinman.
Hello and welcome to the How to Quit Working Show. Today we're going to talk about what it actually takes to be successful. This is such a great topic to talk about because there's so much, I think, general ideas in society about what it actually takes to be successful, and they are so wrong. And if you believe them, it will send you absolutely down the wrong path. It will send you down the path potentially to insanity or mediocrity, whichever, depending on how you go, you'll end up in one of those places. So don't do that. Let's talk today about what it really takes to be successful. It's really going to be a great show. I've become really passionate about this topic, and I think that I have a whole lot to say about it. So before we get into that, I want to remind you about the How to Quit Working Circle. It is a great place where people like you go if you'd like to have a community of people to support and encourage you, as well as a free video training series and special offers from me every now and then. So go over to howtoquitworking.com/circle and join the How to Quit Working Circle. I look forward to seeing you there. And by the way, I got to remind you, that is free. There's no cost whatsoever to join the How to Quit Working Circle. It is completely complimentary, and I just love to have a really interesting, fun, and cool people over there. So head over to howtoquitworking.com/circle. Now let's get into our topic for today, which is what it really takes to be successful. And maybe I'll start with a few of the myths around what it takes to be successful. And one of those myths is that it's all about sort of external things. It's all about how much money you have or how much knowledge you have. That's a big one. It's even bigger than money. People think you got to know all the right things or know all the right people or know how this works or know how that works or know some super special secrets or something like that. And it has nothing to do with any of that. It all has to do with you and you becoming the best person that you can possibly be. We have to talk about this with the framework or the background being that you live in a society, just like I do, everybody lives in a society that is not designed to create successful people. It's designed to create people who survive. It is designed to create people who mate their basic needs and maybe a little bit beyond, but not much beyond your basic needs. And there are elements of society that don't even aren't even designed to help people make to meet their basic needs. So you have to realize that you've grown up in a world and you are part of a system that is not there to support you in that pursuit of success, whether that's starting a business or whatever it is that you want to do. You've been programmed to survive. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, no, I haven't, that's not right. Well, that's just your programming telling you that you haven't been, or that what you're thinking and what you're doing is normal and that it's the right thing to do. And it certainly is normal, but the folks who come here, if you're here watching this or listening to this podcast, you've got some bigger and better ideas for yourself. You've got some bigger things that you want to accomplish. You don't just want to pay your bills and put food on the table and have a car and all those basic things. You want something much bigger. And in order to get that, you have to get out of this mold that you have fallen into just by virtue of the fact that you are a member of society. And getting outside of that mold, playing a different game, as I like to think of it, is really hard. It is not easy. So you have to be prepared to do a lot of really hard work. And when I say hard work, I think a lot of people think that what I mean is you got to be up until midnight working on your business plan, or you've got to be out pounding the pavement, making phone calls, sending emails, building websites, whatever it is that you do. And that is important, and there is certainly some legitimacy to that thought, because it is a lot of hard work. But I want to be clear about the hard work that I'm talking about is not that. It's actually much harder. And that work is really about making yourself into the best person that you can possibly be. And inside of the constraints and the ideas that society has imposed upon you in your time on this earth so far, you haven't gotten the things that you need. You haven't gotten the tools that you need. You haven't gotten the mindset that you need. You haven't gotten the perspectives that you need in order to be successful. And you can get those, and getting those perspectives and those ideas means just completely taking your brain apart, like taking everything that is in your brain and like disassembling it, adding a bunch of stuff into it, taking a bunch of stuff out of it, and then reassembling what you have left into a whole new perspective and a whole new mentality and a whole new way of looking at the world. I can't understate this enough. You have to be willing to forget practically everything that you know and everything that you've learned, and learn a new way of thinking. And I want to give you a couple of really tactical steps to take on that, but I wanted to start with the framework of, yeah, this is really hard work, and it's not the nuts and bolts of building a business. It's really hard work that you have to do for yourself. And it really requires stepping outside of the norm. It requires stepping outside of the normal things that society would tell you that you're supposed to do. So the first thing that you have to do is that you have to be willing to accept that every thought that is running through your head, every belief that you have, everything that you think in your head might not be true. In fact, I would venture to guess a vast majority of it is not necessarily true. It is just based on your one single perspective. And you only have one perspective. Each and every one of us only has one perspective. You know, it's interesting. I was talking with a friend the other day, and we were talking about the fact that it's literally impossible for two people to see the same situation or any situation the same way. Even if they're in the same room, looking at the same thing, receiving the same information, they're never going to see that thing the same way. And I think the most important thing to remember is, maybe it's not the most important, I don't know what the most important is, but a very important thing to remember is that everything that is going on in your head is your perspective. And that is only one of several billion perspectives that exists in this world. And that is very humbling. It's a little hard to accept. And it really requires a lot of humbleness to be able to say, yeah, okay, I think that's how it is, but I'm only one of a couple billion people here, and everybody else has a different idea. I really don't believe in the words true and false anymore, and I certainly don't like the words right or wrong. Because when we use words like true, false, right, and wrong, what we're really saying is that they are true or false or right or wrong based upon our own perspective, our own limited perspective. And when you are able to realize that there's a whole bunch of people out there who know a lot of things that you do, that you do not, have had a lot of experiences that you have not, and have seen things that you have not, have learned things that you have not, and have done things that you have not done, that's that's a huge amount of information and a huge amount of perspective that you simply don't have access to. Now, the good news is you can broaden your perspective. You can broaden the way that you're able to look at things by really the key. It's not hard, but it can be difficult to process because it's such a big concept. But you can broaden your perspective by just being humble and saying, in everything that happens in your life, whether you're ordering a cheeseburger at McDonald's or whether you're working on your business or whether you're dealing with a situation at your job, you just have to look at it like, okay, well, this is what I think. This is how I think this situation is. This is what I think should be done. This is what I think the correct answer is. But it is only one of many perspectives involved. And I think that I began to get familiar with this concept when I was managing large programs at my last job. And what I would find was that one of the things that I had to do is I had to pull together a lot of different people with a lot of different ideas and opinions, and I had to get them to agree on a solution. And I think one of the things that I learned there was, and it was for me, it was like a mini lesson, which I've expanded on over the years, but I think the thing that I saw there was it's not that this guy's wrong and this gal's right, or vice versa, or these three people know what they're talking about and this guy doesn't. It's more like all of us have our own perspectives and certainly our own agendas and our own things that we want to accomplish. And that drives how we view the world. That drives our opinions. So what is right for one of those people is not right for the other person. And what is right for them is maybe not right for me or not right for you. And we can't interact with each other as a productive society if we don't stop thinking about things in terms of right and wrong, my idea, your idea, this is good, this is bad, and begin thinking of things in terms of, okay, here's all of these different perspectives. How can we understand them all and come to some sort of conclusion or some sort of a end point or whatever it is given the situation that's going to work for all of us or work for most of us or maybe work for some of us. You know, every situation demands its own type of a solution. But I think when you're caught, I know that when you're caught in that mentality of I'm right, you're wrong, you don't get anywhere. It stops everything right there in its tracks. And we don't make progress as a human race that way, and you certainly don't make progress in your own business or moving towards your own goals if you have that mentality of everything that I think is right, and I think that I've got it figured out. And I think it's not just about being egotistical or being kind of a know-it-all. It's about really integrating that line of thinking into your brain and how you think about everything. Anytime you see a situation and you think that you know what the correct or the right answer is or the right thing in that situation, you've got to be able to step back and say, all right, well, that's what I think, but there's a couple billion people in this world who all probably have different opinions. And those different opinions come from their different perspectives, their different priorities, their different experiences, their different everything, right? Because everybody, each and every one of us, even amongst our siblings, we have very different lives. We've all experienced different things. We've done different things. We've learned different things. We've talked to different people. So we are all incredibly, incredibly different. I mean, I think just wrapping your brain around how different every single one of us is important in being able to understand how to interact with the world, because everything that you say and do, you have to realize that you're saying that to somebody who's had a very different life than you and who has experienced many very different things than you and has drawn many very different conclusions than you out of those things that they've experienced and done. So I think the first thing that I would say is just you've got to realize that your perspective is only one of many. Now, one of the areas that this gets to be really important is in marketing of your business. You have to step back and say, okay, well, I think that this potential customer would want this. I think that they should want it because I have this list of reasons why I believe they want my product. And when you go out and try to sell it to them, what you'll find is that you might be right. You absolutely might be right. And how likely you are to be right is based upon how well you know that potential customer and how well you understand their perspective. Because your perspective does not matter. Your perspective does not matter when you are trying to influence someone else to do something. And selling something to someone is just trying to influence them to do something. But influencing people to do something is much bigger than selling. It's something that we do in all of our lives, whether you're trying to get your kids to go to bed or whether you're trying to get your wife to let you quit your job or whatever the situation is that you're dealing with right now. You're probably trying to convince someone to do something. And you simply cannot do that if you don't recognize that other people have different perspectives, different priorities, and different ideas than you do. So you've got to think of yourself as this one tiny little grain of sand that is this tiny little grain of sand in a whole large beach full of sand, and each and every one of those grains of sand is just as important as you and has very different perspectives and ideas. And that kind of leads me into step number 2, which is to be really successful, you have to you have to expose yourself to as much as possible, right? You have to expose yourself to as many different viewpoints as you possibly can. And you have to really, really understand them extremely well. And there's so many different ways to do that. I mean, you can read books, you can watch YouTube videos, you can watch documentaries. That's one of my favorite ways to expand my perspective of the world, is to watch documentaries on things that are as far away from my personal day-to-day life as possible, because I find that it gives me great perspective in being able to view the world from a much more intelligent perspective and being able to understand other people and what's going on with them. So take a lot of steps to broaden your horizons, and that might be, and again, like I said, this is about work that you're doing for yourself to, as I like to say, make yourself the best person that you can possibly be, so that you can accomplish all the things that you want. All right, we tend to jump right to that. I want to accomplish the things that I want to do, so I got to just pound through the list so I can get up the ladder and get to this place, this magical place that we think where everything's going to be okay, which doesn't actually exist, but that's a whole other show. But you've got to be able to build yourself into the best person that you can possibly be. And one of the great ways to do that is by expanding your horizons and your perspectives, which will help you to realize how small and ignorant and insignificant you are in the world. And I say that with no apology, because you and I are all very small and very ignorant and very insignificant in the grand scheme of the world and what is going on. You know, if we're around here for 80 years, maybe that's kind of the average life expectancy. When you look at that in the grand scheme of humanity and the grand scheme of the age of the universe, it is pretty gosh darn insignificant. And you're only one of a couple billion people in the world. And I mean, I'm not going to apologize for saying that, because it's so important. It's so critical to understand that, to realize what you have to do to really step up and be a leader in the world, because being a business owner is about being a leader, whether you like it or not. You've got to lead. You've got to become a leader. You've got to become a strong leader. So expanding your perspectives and expanding your perspective by understanding other perspectives is a really great way to just become that bigger, better person, to become that person who is able to take on the world and do huge, huge things and be very successful. So number 1, realize how insignificant you are in the world. Number two, work really hard to expand your horizons and understand different perspectives. And number three on this list is act differently, behave differently, do things differently. Because the things that you've done up until now have gotten you to the point where you're at, and they're going to just keep you at that point or keep you moving along that same trajectory. And if you're here, that's obviously not what you want. You obviously want something new and different and bigger and better in your life. So you've got to be able to act differently. So one of the ways that you can act differently is when you hear someone voicing another opinion that is different than yours, what our natural instinct as human beings is to defend our position, to argue our own position and explain why we believe we're right. And that just doesn't get us anywhere. It doesn't help anything in the world. And that's how on a political level, if you're following all this presidential garbage going on here in the US and all the childishness and these really sad, pathetic people who unfortunately are going to become the leaders of the country. When you follow that, what you see is all of that, right? You see all of those people behaving in that defensive, I'm right, you're wrong kind of a way. And I think it makes perfect sense, right? Because that is what our society is about. That is what this world is about. It's about I'm right, you're wrong, and I have to convince you that I'm right. And those of us who are aspiring to a higher level of being, really, I mean, this is big stuff. I mean, this isn't about quitting your job and starting a business. That's one thing that I know you want to do, but on a larger level, it's about becoming better human beings. And the leaders of our society, and let's just take our political leaders as an example, are a representation of a majority of society. They are a representation of, generally speaking, how we go about it. And it's our job as the real leaders in the world to do something differently. So you can't behave like that. You've got to behave in a different way. So as I was starting to say, when you hear somebody else voicing another opinion, talking about something that you don't agree with, your job is not to defend your own position. Your job is to understand that person's perspective and understand why they're saying what they're saying, understand where they're coming from, understand what experiences have led them to believe that, what information they have that has led them to believe that. And what you find 9 times out of 10 when you do that, in other words, when you take the path of trying to understand your opposition's perspective instead of trying to defend your own, you find that you're really not that far apart. You always find, if you're able to, now you can't do it with everybody because everybody's not willing to engage in this conversation with them because they might also be staunchly defending their position. But when you try to understand, and when you have two people that are having a conversation, and they don't agree, and they begin to understand each other's perspectives, what you find is you find common ground. Almost always. You almost always find that common ground. You find that, okay, well, you want this and I want this. This is really what we both want. We have different ideas about how to get there. But now that we have figured out that there's this overlap in what we both want, now we can focus on the overlap, right? We can focus on the things that we agree on. We can focus on our common mutual goals. Generally speaking, all human beings just want the best for themselves and for everyone else. And when you can sort of unite on that front, you can accomplish really, really huge things. And that's why it's so important to just be able to just take all this stuff in your head and just kind of be willing to say, yeah, it's just one tiny little perspective. There's billions and billions and billions of other perspectives and other ideas and other opinions. So, I like talking about this stuff because I think that not only is it critical if you want to be successful in business, it's critical if you want to be the best human being that you can possibly be. And once you become the best that you can be, then you can accomplish anything. You can absolutely accomplish anything in the entire world. So go out there and become an amazing human being. If you would like some help in that process and you'd like to have someone to guide you along, then go over to howtoquitworking.com/coaching and get more information about coaching with me or other folks who do coaching with How to Quit Working. Again, that's howtoquitworking.com/coaching. If you just like to sort of dip your toe in and make some progress on your business, go over to howtoquitworking.com/kickstart. Get more information about the Kickstart program. That is an awesome program that will take you through a really cool process that will help you to kind of get your mind in the right place and begin to make some progress on your business. And we keep the price of that really low. It's under $100 so that it's affordable for folks. So go over to howtoquitworking.com/kickstart. I look forward to seeing you there, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the How to Quit Working Show.
Thanks for joining us on the How to Quit Working Show. Tune in next time when we'll talk to another amazing person just like you who is now living the ultimate life of freedom and doing it on their terms. If you want to learn how to quit working and get these episodes delivered directly to you, visit howtoquitworkingshow.com.